We are live 364 days a year.
What are we doing here?
If Dom turns at SummerSlam, I'm shaving my moustache off. I told you, if that happens, it's going. My lip is cold because of a stupid bet that I made with YouTube.
Oh, good.
Wrestle's better than Daniel Bryan Daniels. Better than Okada.
How do you not get fishy after Monday Night Raw?
Good evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, and we have an action-packed show for you guys today, a lot to get into, but before we get into it, I have to introduce the panel, and let's kick things off with my partner in crime on the daily broadcast. How are you today, Clark?
What's going on? I'm doing well. Happy Friday, no doubt. Obviously, we've got, a bit of a somber subject out of the gates, but we have two of the best guests we've ever had on this very program. So I gotta admit, I am stoked to be here. Let's get right into it, man.
Absolutely. And we've got Fernando Zayas in the comments saying, happy Friday, Wrestling Republic crew. Happy Friday to you as well, Fernando. But like you just touched upon, Clark, we do have two very special guests today. Firstly, we have a man who has been covering professional wrestling media for longer than I have been alive. This man is a veteran of the game. He, of course, is Donnie DaSilva. How are you today, Donnie?
Ben, thank you so much for having us on. The fact that the show that I've been running for the last little while, Huge Pop and Wrestling Republic, have been working together so nicely and so well over the last little while. It's great to be able to do something collaborative like this.
Absolutely. It is a pleasure to have you guys on the show. Plus, if you haven't checked out Huge Pop Radio, check it out. You can see it on the Wrestling Republic website, wrestlingrepublic.com. And of course, the interview of Nick Nemeth was on the YouTube channel last week. But also joining us today, we have a man who had an over 2 decades long career in WWE as a referee. He is an author. He is a Canadian and New England pro wrestling Hall of Famer. We've got Jimmy Korderas with us today. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having us on. Like Donnie said, this is a great collaboration we have going on here. And yeah, it's been a busy couple of days, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. And let's just get into that out of the gates because, of course, yesterday we had that absolute tragic news come through that Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71. I mean, there's a million things you can say about Hulk Hogan. I mean, you can look at it from his personal milestones. The guy's a 12-time world champion. He is a Hall of Famer. He is an 8-time WrestleMania main eventer. But what was even bigger than that was his impact on the pro wrestling business, the pro wrestling landscape. I mean, Anthony said it on the show yesterday, but would WWE or even AEW exist today if it wasn't for him? Probably not, because he was part of the boom period of professional wrestling. But then there's other ways you can look at it, like what he meant to America. For the rest of the world, I can talk about it from a UK perspective. He is one of the faces of America when people think of America and American celebrities. He was potentially the first real wrestling global mainstream draw, an absolute huge deal. And then, of course, you can't ignore the controversies as well. We all know about that horrific phone call which leaked. I mean, there's just no defending that, undoubtedly. But he is a man, good and bad. There's a million things you can say about him. And Clark, I'm going to chuck this one to you first because I just want to get your perspective on, of course, the heartbreaking passing of him yesterday.
My first thought was I watched with both my mom and dad when Hogan was the third man at Bash at the Beach. Bash at the Beach, I apologize. I was 5 years old. That was my first thought. I went back to that. That was my first introduction to Hulk Hogan. And so, being born in 1991, I missed the prime of Hulkamania. I was aware of it, but I grew up on Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. Hollywood Hogan are my earliest memories. And that's something really fascinating to me. I understand how large the impact is on the business, though, because when that run happened, in the early 2000s in the WWE, you saw it. I think back to WrestleMania 18 with The Rock. I think back to all of these unbelievable memories. Like you said, I think you quantified it perfectly. The legacy isn't perfect, but I think you can separate Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea. Nobody's perfect, and the impact he had on professional wrestling is something that we should celebrate without question.
Undoubtedly on that one. I mean, Jimmy, obviously you knew Hulk Hogan. You met him a lot. So, what's your thoughts on all of this? And, what do you want to say about the legacy of Hulk Hogan?
Well, I agree with you guys. The legacy of Hulk Hogan, I would argue that we would not be where we are today if it wasn't for someone like a Hulk Hogan, because Hulk Hogan was the first one who transcended wrestling and became a multi-platform celebrity. He made wrestling absolutely cool again because there were celebrities and sports athletes who enjoyed wrestling and they weren't afraid to show it. And thanks to Hulk Hogan, and they all we owe a debt to him for growing the business and making it what it is today. Because without Hulk Hogan in his era, I don't know if the business would be in the position it is today. That's for sure. And I know we talk about the controversies, and nobody's saying excusing it or anything like that. He had his flaws, but we all have our flaws. Nobody's perfect. I mean, everybody has their little issues that they have to deal with, but his were more magnified because of who he is. And of course, we hold our heroes, to a higher standard. So I'm not asking people to forgive him. I'm not asking people all I'm asking is for people to show a little respect in this time of where his family is grieving, which I wish, I know here we are, but other places that I'm reading, it's sad to see. And I was sad yesterday that I lost a friend, and I wasn't thinking about that other stuff, unfortunately.
No, that is absolutely true. Of course, with social media, there are people who are going to share their perspectives, and a lot of times, they are not necessarily very nice. But I mean, we got DCX Warlord in the chat saying that he respects him as a wrestler, but not as a human, based on, of course, what was leaked. And yeah, I mean, that is one of those things too, where I feel like for so many people, Jimmy, like you mentioned, he was a hero. He was somebody they looked up to. And then, of course, you hold people like that to a higher standard. And then when, they can let you down, it is very, it's very difficult. And you have a brilliant comment here that as an African-American fan that idolized him, that controversy hit so hard. Prayers to his family, and you can't deny the impact his character had. And not just his character, but him to professional wrestling. Donnie, what's your thought on all of this?
So I just want to say this, that sentiment, and sorry, I forget who the person watching was that made the comment about, I respect the character, but not the person. Who was that again?
DCX Warlord.
Okay. So Warlord, let me just throw this at you, because I've seen this comment a lot over the last 24 hours. I don't understand how someone can say, I don't respect the person, the man, Terry Bollea, if you never had a conversation with him. Now, I get it. He said stuff that was horrific and horrible, and I will never try to say that it was okay. It wasn't. But he also went very public on many different platforms, apologizing profusely for the things he said, and said that's not in line with my character. That's not how I want to carry myself. And then people said, well, that's not enough. Okay, well, who has not made a stupid comment before and then regretted it? He became a born-again Christian, turned his life to Christ. Whether or not that means anything to you, that's for you to decide. But for him, it was a big deal. I could only speak to my personal experiences with Hogan. The guy treated me really, really well. And I know a lot of people in the industry, and people go, oh, that's because you're Caucasian. He treated you well. Well, I know a lot of guys and ladies in the industry that are BIPOC who he also treated exceedingly well. And those people are on social media over the last 24 hours saying, rest in peace, you're a legend. I'm going to miss you, my friend. I think it's really hard to categorize a 71-year life based on some really stupid decisions. I don't think Hogan was a bad human, and I don't think he was hateful. I think he was ignorant. I think he was uneducated. I don't think he was very bright with understanding the power of those types of words. But I don't think he was hateful.
Honestly, a really, really good perspective there on that as well, because to your point, especially in the social media era, you know, one thing from somebody's entire life when they don't know the person obviously can be escalated. And of course, that thing, to your point again, very, very bad, undeniably. But Clark, you have a story about Hogan, I believe you want to tell.
To Donnie's point, I had one personal encounter with Hogan. I was at a charity auction event, and I was far and away the least important person in the room. And I was seated at a table near Hogan's table. And of course, being a wrestling fan, I was like, man, I don't want to bother anybody here. It's a bad look, right? I know how to act in public, but I've got to at least say hello. And I walked up, I said hello, I introduced myself. I kind of said, you know, I'd love to get a picture because I've been a lifelong wrestling fan. But obviously this isn't the time or the place. I don't know if you're going to be in town this week or something. Maybe like if we could sneak whatever. And he was like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out, and gave me the brother and everything. And you know, every hair stood up on my body because that's all you ever want to hear, right? And at the end of the night, he walked over to me and he just handed me, and it was a folded up napkin. And he had signed it in pen, the napkin from the dinner, to Clark, Hulk Hogan. And it meant so much to me. Like, I thought it was so cool. And so, you know, I wanted to tell that story because that was my one personal encounter I had with him. And I just thought it was so thoughtful. Like, we had a 5-minute conversation at most, you know, mostly me kissing butt, but at the same time, it meant a lot.
When you were kissing butt,
as a young kid.
When you were kissing his butt, I can almost guarantee, because I've been in this situation with him and I've watched fans interact with him this way. I'm guessing, Clark, and you can tell everyone, he was very gracious and very dismissive of compliments.
I also think he appreciated the way that I kind of did it. I did it in a way where I made it a one-on-one conversation so that it wasn't like I was really bugging him.
Yeah.
Like I kind of caught him at the right time, not to make it sound weird. And so he was super gracious, right? He was kind of giggling at the fact that we were like having this whispering, oh, you're a big wrestling fan conversation. And it was cool. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And he couldn't have been more fun or nicer to anybody that night. Truthfully.
I'm sure Jimmy has like 5 million Hogan stories.
Yeah, yeah.
I told a couple yesterday when Jimmy and I did a live, and then it was posted up on the wrestling YouTube. But I want to share one that I did not share yesterday.
Go for it.
And I have not shared this before publicly ever. 2011, I was booking a tour on the East Coast of Canada, 14-day loop, and Hogan was headlining those shows. And it was a lot of fun working with him on those shows. Somewhere in the middle of the loop, I had a family emergency. Okay. And I was panicking, and I'm in the middle of Nova Scotia. I think I was in Halifax. I don't remember what city we were in, but I'm panicking because there's a family emergency back home. At the time, I don't have the cash to get onto a plane in addition to my travel plans that are already booked, right? To get home and everything. I haven't even been paid yet for my work on the tour. Like, I'm getting paid at the end of the loop. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? I go talk to the promoter, right? The money guy. And I said, listen, I've got a family emergency. Can you fly me home? Hopefully I take care of everything. And then I hop back on a plane and catch you guys in the next town. No, brother, I can't do it. Like, we need you here. Can't do it. Blah, 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 blah. I go back. I'm walking to my room. I got the boo-boo face. I'm frustrated. I'm trying to figure out what to do. Beefcake sees me. He goes, what's going on? I tell him. He goes, come with me. Takes me into Hulk's room. Hulk says, what's going on? I tell him what's going on. He offers to pay for a charter.
Wow.
That is so cool.
And I was like, are you like, I looked at him and I'm like, bro, I don't know that I can pay you back the money for a charter. Like, I don't want to have that debt on my head. He's like, listen, if you got a family emergency, you got a family emergency. What are you going to do? So that was the plan. he was like making a call. He's like, can we get this guy a charter flying out of this airport, get him to Toronto as soon as possible? And while this is going on, I'm calling home and I'm trying to figure out what's the status of our emergency. Thankfully, everything sort of leveled out. Yeah. And so I was able to finish the tour, but he was there with his credit card in hand going, let's just get you home.
Wow.
Cool. That is so cool.
I mean, that is a hell of a story for sure. And I mean, again, shows other sides of the Hulk Hogan character, which again, might not be being spoke about at the minute. And another thing I want to touch upon though as well is because quite a few Instagram comments have been mentioning it here about why his legacy was so important and why, of course, during that boom period of wrestling, he was so vital to it. I mean, Donnie, I don't know if you want to touch upon that at all.
Sorry, I had a call coming in. Touch on which part exactly?
Oh, sorry. Basically, some of our Instagram comments are asking why he was so important, why his role, especially during the 80s, was so critical to the future of WWE.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? And a lot of people say, oh, Vince was a visionary, and if it wasn't Hulk, it would have been someone else. And people talk about the fact that on the Vince McMahon Netflix documentary, they talk about the fact that it was almost going to be Dusty that was in that position. And then people go, well, if it was Dusty, everything would have just been the same. It just would have been Dusty. To that, I say, ever since Hulk Hogan's initial WWE run ended at the 1993 King of the Ring, they were trying to find a new Hulk Hogan, and they never did. They never did.
Gagne nearly had it in the AWA.
Yeah,
right?
but he
I wasn't alive, but he nearly had it.
He actually did.
Yeah.
He had it in the grasp of his hand. He just didn't pull the trigger on it.
Exactly.
He didn't have the vision Vince had.
No. Vince didn't Vern didn't understand the omni-channel options with a guy like Hulk Hogan. And you guys are younger, so let me put this in perspective for you. When I was a young kid, and I'm already a wrestling fan by the time I'm 6, 7 years old, because I had family members that got me into it. But now I'm going to school, elementary school, and kids are coming up to me talking about how much they love Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, whoa, how do you know about Hulk Hogan? It's because they started watching the CBS Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling cartoon. Wow. And so, like, the cartoon itself, dude, you guys don't even have a clue how big that was for pulling in a whole generation of young fans. Vince started taking the attitude of Hulk Hogan, and this is before this word was a buzzword, but he sort of like understood the concept before this was a word. Hulk Hogan was toyetic. Hulk Hogan had the look of a superhero, of a cartoon character. And he's like, why am I wasting my money trying to bring in these old geezers that used to watch wrestling in the 60s and 70s? I'm going to target kids because the kids are going to nag their folks and make them come pay to watch and cheer on Hulk Hogan. He inversed the business model. He went after the children. And then what happens? Those children get older, and they stay wrestling fans. And now their children are wrestling fans. And that's exactly what has happened. They tried so hard to find another Hulk Hogan. They thought they had it with Warrior. They thought they had it with Luger.
Yep.
They thought they had it with the closest one has been
They
John
thought
Cena.
Sid. They thought Sid as well.
Sid.
The closest was John Cena. And obviously it's a different comparable, but just in terms of what he meant to the company, that's the closest. Mm-hmm. There's never been another Hogan.
Yeah, and again, like I was saying earlier, he was so important to kind of America from an outside perspective as well. I remember where I live in Swansea, sometimes there used to be like American style parties which would be advertised in like local places. And on all of those, it would be Hulk Hogan wearing the Mr. America mask. And he had no involvement with any of this. But when people were creating posters thinking of America, it was him who they envisioned. And that just shows how big his impact was.
To just jump in for a second to show you how big his impact was. If you walk down the street and you ran into 100 people and you asked them if they were wrestling fans, ask 100 non-wrestling fans and ask them to name a wrestler. 95% of them would say Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
And the other 5 would probably are probably so old they would say Gorgeous George or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was with him out on the East Coast, it was right around that time that there was an article, and I think it was Time Magazine, but someone can Google it and check me. But it was around that time that an article had come out, and he was listed as one of the top most recognizable faces on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And while this is going on, we're in like Cadillac Escalades and 14 passenger fans doing trips between towns to go from one wrestling show to the next. And we're stopping on the highway to go get, gas and drinks and whatever. And whenever we stop, like there was times when we would stop and Hulk's like, he's putting on his hoodie and he's putting on his shades. And I'm like, brother, it's not going to work.
to the point about his influence too. I had an Uber driver as recently on the way home from Money in the Bank ask me if Hulk Hogan was still the WWF champion in the car. And I very politely answered, but it was like, it just shows you the reach. I mean, the driver couldn't have been more delightful, had no idea what he was talking about, but like,
hey, Thunder Lips was over.
Exactly. Rocky 3.
Yes.
Fernando Zaya says, awesome. I mean, absolutely. And it is just, it's great to talk about him and to talk about, not stories and sides to him which aren't necessarily being spoken about over the last 24 hours. I mean, you did mention, Donnie, a lot of wrestlers are taking to social media to really support him and to say, rest in peace and all of that who did know him. But up next,
sorry, I just want to say quickly,
go for it.
And I don't want anyone to take this as being like we're dismissing the lousy things he did.
Right.
We're not. But we're saying that was a snippet of who the man was, at least from my personal perspective and my dealings with him personally and Jimmy's. Right. So like everyone makes mistakes. You apologize. What else are you supposed to do? I don't know.
Yeah. It's up to you to accept it or not. And I'm not going to tell you to accept it. And if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
But just, but I don't take this opportunity to take a victory lap around someone's demise. I mean, it's driving me insane that people are so, I'm going to make this comparison and people are going to look at me and go like, what the hell are you talking about? They are so acting like they're happy that this happened to a person, that person passed away, yet they're glorifying someone who murdered someone in broad daylight. Well, it was early in the morning, shot him in the back, and they're saying this guy's a hero. That's the kind of people we're going to look up to. I'm sorry. This is backward thinking to me. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I know that's kind of like off the beaten path what I just said, but at the same time,
no need to apologize. I understand that one.
It just feels weird that we get selective of who we call heroes.
100%.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And again, like you said, people are entitled to think, how they want. Of course, absolutely, we are condemning that tape, no doubt about it. But again, there's different sides, there's different perspectives to people's characters. That was one day in 71 years. But now let's move on, because I want to talk about this Austin Theory situation, because of course, this past week on Monday Night Raw, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller split up. And the way they split up was Grayson Waller saying that Austin Theory is injured and A-Town Down Under is just done. And this really frustrated me, because I don't know if this injury is real or it isn't, right? I presume it's real. I have no idea. But what really frustrates me about it is, why couldn't they have waited until he came back to properly do the split? Put Grayson Waller on a singles run for the time being. Then when you get back, bang, that's a story you could do. Hey, I've been having more success while you've been away than when you were here, and you can at least split them up. Because this A-Town Down Under story, since they lost the tag team championships, has felt directionless. It really sucks, because Austin Theory, I do feel like, has been improving compared to a few years ago. He has a lot more charisma compared to a few years ago. And I just kind of feel like, dare I say, they're wasting his career. I mean, Donnie, I'd love to get your thoughts on this one.
I mean, when the segment happened on Monday Night Raw, no word of a lie, my first thought was somewhere in the UK, Ben Allison is punching air right now. You know what? I made some calls. Like when I saw your rundown on what we were going to talk about today, Jimmy and I were talking about this off air, and we said, "Do you know if Austin's injury is a shoot?" And we're like, "No, I don't know." And I made a couple texts and reached out to some people like, "Hey, what's going on?" I haven't heard back from anyone yet, but I don't know. I don't know if it's a shoot. If it is a legitimate injury, then to me, it's got to be something significant enough where he's not traveling, like a concussion or something that is going to get worse if he's traveling. Because otherwise, if you wanted to split up the team, just beat his ass on TV and have the split, and then Austin can go away and heal, and then come back and be bigger than ever. They didn't choose to do that. So to me, there's either a really good storyline reason for it, or Austin's just not able to travel right now. That all being said, in my opinion, I agree with you. I think he's gotten really, really good. And I think he's learning, especially when he's not doing Austin Theory on TV, and he's like in an interview or like in a YouTube thing where he's visiting and hanging out with like up, down, down, or whatever he's doing. When you see him in that capacity, you go, whoa, this guy has charisma for days. Like, he is super electrifying. I think he's a massive, mega baby face waiting to happen. I don't think they're wasting him at all. I'll be honest with you. I think but you can't push everyone at once. And right now is not his time. I think when they decide to pull the trigger on him, he is one good story away from being massive.
I mean, that is a really good point. I mean, we have seen that quite a lot as well, where, I mean, most recently, I mean, like some of the stuff with, I remember Otis a few years ago, right? Where he was literally a nobody. He was one half of Heavy Machinery, a tag team, which felt like they were going to get released at any second. They then did that Mandy Rose storyline, and then bang, he was one of the most over stars they had for like a year during the pandemic. And I think if a lot of that was in front of crowds, he'd have been even bigger. So who knows? Maybe it could just be something like that. A simple storyline which really elevates him. But at the same time, it kind of does remind me of like, some early Cody Rhodes, early Drew McIntyre, where you can tell they've got potential, but just doesn't look like, at least where they are right now in WWE, they're going to hit it. I mean, Jimmy, do you think maybe he does have to leave the company and then come back or something like that?
I don't think he has to go the Drew McIntyre or Cody Rhodes route. I think he should take a different route. If he is indeed injured, he's time away. They can't bring him onto television. They can't run the angle if they're going to do the breakup angle. My thoughts are he should take more of a Karrion Kross approach, because Karrion Kross wasn't being used. He took to social media, and he basically got himself over on social media to the point where the crowd and the audience were now craving to see him in the ring. So I think this could lead to something like that, because he is talented enough. He is so good on the mic. He is good with his words, to use his social media platform to maybe create that buzz. And when the time is right for him to get a spot on television, maximize that opportunity. Because social media is playing such an important part now, where, in the fans' eyes, at least, like I said, in the fans' eyes, they think they have such a big voice. Well, use it. Take advantage of that.
That is a really great point. And he has been doing these like kind of motivational videos recently on Instagram, which are, they're really, really good. A little bit different to the direction I'd expect him to go down as a babyface, but it could work.
Yeah. And you know what? One of my mentors, who's long since passed, he said something to me years ago that always comes to mind when I look at a guy like Austin Theory. And like, when you have him as a heel, he's perfect in his current presentation. But when you want him to be a babyface, Waldo Von Erich used to say to me, you got to ugly him up. He's too pretty. Guys don't want to cheer for a man that's that pretty.
That is spot on. Like the baby oil segment with Bobby Lashley, I think that did more damage to him, at least in my eyes, from the fans' perspective, right? Than anything.
Dudes doing all good. When dudes are watching the show with their girlfriend and their wives, and the wives are like, whoa, who is this? Good meat. Yeah, change the channel.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta. He needs a little bit more grit and fire. I really actually like that, especially as a baby face, to feel more underdogish. Right? He
Mhm.
looks like the jock in high school. Like he looks
That's
like
true.
the cool guy that gets the girls and right, like he's in the running for prom king and all of that.
The biggest thing for baby faces, like you said, Clark, is to feel sympathy and to feel like an underdog. That's why if you go back, we're going to go back to Hulk Hogan again. Hulk Hogan, who were all of his opponents? Big, meaty, tough guys.
Yeah.
Why? Because Hulk Hogan is a baby face. So if Hulk Hogan faces someone like a Rey Mysterio, who are you going to cheer for?
Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't work.
But Hogan did have good matches against smaller opponents. Like even a guy like Haku, who's not a giant, right?
Right.
But next to Hogan, he looks small. But Hogan, people love to joke on Hogan and say he wasn't a good wrestler. He was an elite level seller.
Stan Hansen, him and Stan Hansen is one of my favorite matches I've ever seen on tape.
Right. But I'm saying like the way he would garner sympathy was elite. And that's why his matches worked on that kind of level. But I think Jimmy, next week or so, we got Sami Zayn coming up on our show. And Sammy has talked in the past about how he goes, man, it's a lot of work to ugly this up, but it's a formula. Like I do this intentionally.
I still want the documentary released. Seriously,
he needs to ugly up a little.
Release the documentary.
Fernando saying Hogan versus Inoki was fire back in the day.
Yeah, you watch his matches from Japan. You get tapes. You'd be surprised. For those who haven't seen it, search it out. Everybody went back to saying, "Oh, he's only got the 3 moves of doom." Guess what? That's all he needed. Yeah. He didn't have to do a twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splash.
most of Hogan's matches, and I know we're off the Hogan topic, but most of Hogan's matches were 80-20. It was 80% the heel and 20% his shine, his hope, his comeback, and his finish, right? Like, but 80% of the match, right, Jimmy, was him taking heat, and he's selling, and then there's the hope spot and it's cut off, and then it's heat, and then he's hulking up and then cut off, and then you get the final big hulk up and then go home.
And even late career WrestleMania 18 with The Rock, like that's a masterpiece, right?
Oh my God,
that's an absolute masterpiece. It's a beauty.
They called an audible and they called it out there, brother.
That's a master class in I point that out to young wrestlers all the time at the school where I coach, and I'm like, guys, forget about this stuff about planning out every single moment of your match. Listen to the people, or WrestleMania 18 never would have happened.
Right.
I always say it all the time. Like, there are times where good wrestling can just be good wrestling for the sake of it. I'm a huge Zack Sabre Jr. nerd. But then in general, in professional wrestling, a good story is always better than a good match, right? Because story is what hooks people in. It is what makes them suspend their disbelief and forget it's, quote unquote, scripted or whatever you want to call it. That is what draws you in, and that's what really gets you invested into the product.
But with good story, it's more so than just like the dramatic backstory. Like, oh, he stole my girlfriend, now I'm going to fight him. Like, that stuff's fun. But aside from that, a lot of times I think fans get this confused. I'm not saying you guys, I'm saying fans in general, I think get this message confused. When wrestlers talk all about the story of the match, they're very rarely talking about the angle. They're talking about the big guy versus little guy, power guy versus technical guy, the rookie versus the veteran, the master versus the student. Those are the intricate stories that affect the way they work and really make the match change. Like, you watch early Undertaker versus Shawn and then watch them at WrestleMania. Completely different work style based on the story they were telling. Not the angle, the in-ring story. And that's, if you don't have an in-ring story and you're just doing moves, it's stupid, because you're just like, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's MMA, right? Like, they have that too. Like,
I don't want to see just moves, because then it reminds me of what I'm watching is not a shoot. What I'm watching is not legit. It's just two guys cooperatively dancing.
And I always say this, and I always get hate when I say it too. And I think part of it is the fact I'm a graphic designer day to day, so I am a big, wrestling gear guy, right? But it always frustrates me when, based on what wrestlers are wearing and the story, to your point, they're telling in the ring isn't clear, because you can tell a fantastic story in the build up to the event, but somebody could buy a ticket just because they want something to do on a Friday night. They might be, a bit of a casual wrestling fan. They won't necessarily know what's going on week to week. So you need to be able to communicate that story to at least, a degree where you know who to cheer, who to boo in that ring.
Yeah.
In the basically in the first 2 minutes of the match, I should know who the heel is and who the babyface is.
I tell the young guys, if the audience doesn't know if you're a heel when you hit the curtain, you screwed up your entrance.
That's true. That is very,
we've had
very true.
That just tickled Ben, because we've had long debates about entrance music and how that works. And I said it has one purpose.
Yeah.
As soon as it hits, you should know who it is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the key to the whole operation when it comes to entrances in general, right? Oh, no way. It's
For TV wrestling, you're 100% right. For
Right.
indie wrestling, the music should
Little
evoke.
different.
The music should evoke, I like him, I hate him.
right.
Yeah.
That's what it should evoke. Not like, this is just my favorite song.
Yeah.
And that, again, we said it. We were like ranking wrestling theme songs last Sunday on the show, and we said a lot of the really great songs make awful wrestling themes because there's two different real purposes to it. But talking about heels, talking about baby faces, John Cena, of course, Elimination Chamber this year, he turned heel, he shocked the world, and now a few months have gone by. He is going back into SummerSlam as the heel, going up against the babyface, Cody Rhodes. Some fans are speculating there could be a double turn, could be something like that. I don't know, but what I think I do know is very simply Cody Rhodes is going to win at SummerSlam, and I feel like leading up to December, they are going to turn him back face for his final farewell, and I'm going to be completely honest, I feel like this heel turn still has a lot left in the tank. I feel like there's a lot more they can do, and I feel like part of this is because of the Travis Scott situation, which clearly hasn't gone the way they envisioned it. But there's just a lot more I want to see. Now, Clark, obviously you are not a fan of babyface John Cena. You're a big fan of heel John Cena. I'm going to go to you first.
Out of the gates, me first? Come on, man.
Yes.
We have friends here on the show. Everyone knows I've made fun of Cody Rhodes for quite some time, and that I've also been the leader of the Cody Rhodes has always been a heel fan club when it comes to the wrestling internet. But at the same time, if you don't watch the whole program, I'll be fully honest. I've loved that John Cena turned heel for continuity's sake. We haven't gotten it in ages. The idea of then Cody just winning the rematch at SummerSlam to me, and John then goes back to being good guy John and starts, running to the ring again and being very nice and glad handing and stuff. It's too early in my eyes. I like the idea of everybody's got to get nervous around that date he gave. Whether that's the end game or not, I do understand the thought nostalgia-wise for John Cena to end his career as a babyface. But personally, I would just love to see everybody start to get nervous towards the end. Is he really going to take it? Is he really going to do it? And I think it's too early to pull the plug, personally. That's just my thoughts.
I agree. I mean, I've said from the start during this, right, that when they have that, just the Black Titantron, and then they put the date on it one time, Cena did. They should be doing that every single week. Every single week. Every single date he appears, it should tick down one as he's entering. And then it just creates more and more nervousness that he is going to walk out with that championship. And to me, that is more interesting than if, he does turn back face for that, final event. But Jimmy, I'm fascinated to hear your perspective on this.
Well, I agree with Clark. I've enjoyed this heel run by John Cena. I may be in the minority. Yes, I am a shill. But no, I think it's brilliant. I think the fact that he's going full bore, 100%, full steam ahead with this, I'm going to ruin wrestling mantra has been great. And I don't, you know what? I'm not convinced that he's losing at SummerSlam, and I'm not convinced that Cody is winning.
Agreed.
I know people are talking about the double turn. That's one of the hardest things to do in pro wrestling is to execute a double turn effectively and make it work.
Especially planning it.
Yes, exactly. And to the comment in the comment section from Ant U Official, can't be a double turn when Cody's been a bad guy the whole time. He hasn't been a bad guy. He's shown some heel subtleties, very little subtleties, but he hasn't been a bad guy. And if he was a bad guy, guess what? He wouldn't be getting the all over the place unless you're Sami Zayn. But as far as this goes, I'm going to paint a little picture for you guys because the missing component in this whole thing is The Rock. Obviously, he was persona non grata at WrestleMania. He hasn't shown his face ever since, which unfortunately we got Travis Scott instead. But let's say, for example, let's just say John Cena has how many dates to fulfill before he calls it a career?
Oh, not many. I lost track.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what if he were to go out as champion and on that last day, who finally shows up is The Rock.
This is Jimmy's fantasy booking. He loves
my fantasy booking. And Rock comes out to the ring as Cena holds up that title, and he holds his hands out waiting for Cena to present Rock with the championship. Cena looks at him and says, not today, brother. Not for you. So in essence, Rock wanted Cena to turn heel so he could bring him the championship.
Oh.
Yes.
And Cena says, no deal. I don't know. Is there something
At
there?
least
And
that
then
would
you
be
have
some answer.
Then he has his one last match versus The Rock. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, spitballing.
It is a really good way to fix the mess they're in.
I love that.
It fixes a lot of things.
They back themselves into a corner,
Yes.
significantly with this. And to your point, the Rock stuff too. There's so many answers, and there's so little dates as well. And that's why I'm saying I don't think we need this big cheer fest for John Cena. We've cheered for him for years.
Yeah, and see, this is how my brain works. All of a sudden, other stuff pops in my brain when when Rock holds his hands out for the belt. He replies kind of like Cody did to Rock. Hey, Rock, go.
Yeah.
Sleep yourself.
Yeah, there you go. Full circle moment.
That would be fantastic. That really,
No,
really
I got
would be.
Donnie's wheels turning. Look at Donnie. He's
I
like,
have like Mousetrap the game in my head right now.
I'm on board with Korderas though. Like I know that the internet's belief is in line with you, Ben, in terms of it's a lock, it's a guarantee, bet the house Cody's going to win at SummerSlam. I'm not buying it. And the reason I don't buy it is I think there's still money in John Cena there. And I don't think they want to leave money on the table when this is literally his last run. Why leave money on the table? And I know that this popular thought has been out there that John has to turn babyface in the back half of this last run. I don't necessarily see that either. We've seen that for 20 years. I think what could happen is he could lose the title in his very last night on the job, where he's on the verge of taking it with him forever and killing wrestling. I think he could lose it on his very last night. To who? I don't know. But I think he could lose it on his last night and then have the reflective moment when he stands up after losing and the people cheer because they're appreciative, because he's in his hometown, because it is his last night. And that becomes the de facto babyface return without actually having to do any bubblegum, corny ass John Cena stuff like he did for 20 years.
Boom.
That to me is the way to do it. You don't need a story babyface turn. If the people are going, as Pat Patterson would say, Jimmy, banana.
Yep.
If the people are going banana right now for Cena as a heel and he's getting these bipartisan reactions, that's what he did for 20 years. Who cares? Let him cheer, let him boo. Who cares? He's got massive crowd response. So milk it. Yeah. And Cody still has so much time in front of him. He doesn't need the title right now. There's so many ways that they've woven in with this clever Paul Heyman multi-level layering of stories. There's so many ways that they could screw Cody out of the title and he doesn't lose an ounce of face.
There's still a viper in the wings.
100%.
Yeah, that's true.
There's so many things that, and I know people like, oh, Cody's got to turn heel. And I'm like, I don't see it, man. This reminds me of me. Not right now. Not right now. This reminds
me. Leader of the Cody Truther Club. He is a heel.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Aunt U's in on the gag, by the way. I did want to say
that. Oh, okay.
It's a complete gag. Like,
it's all good.
All right.
But it reminds me of me, Clark, for years and years when I was screaming for John's heel turn. I was screaming, please just do it. Pull the trigger.
Heavens. Him and Roman, for that matter.
I used to write out fantasy booking of what his heel turn would look like. And what they actually did is very similar to what I mapped out 15 years ago.
I think the brilliance was too, and Jimmy, you brought up a great point earlier about the influence of social media. John planting the seed of I was going to change my gear on social media, basically, like I was going to change my gear and my music and everything presentation wise. And then he still comes out in the same gear. He just gives you nothing that you want. Like it's the ultimate. You have nothing. Like
Cody really is.
Cody Deaner says it all the time. A number one job of a heel: find out what the people want and don't give it to them. That's it. That's heel 101.
And stop trying to be cool.
You're right.
Yeah.
You don't want to have any redeeming qualities as a heel. Give them nothing to like.
Yeah. That's it. That's it.
Cool heels are baby faces.
But it works. It really, really does. And I agree with you there, Donnie. I've been saying it from the start. Have it go down to the last hour, until the end, and then do it. And then bang, it's interesting. Because firstly, I do feel like there's a very good chance that fans could turn on Cody if he wins it again. Because then it does kind of feel like he's being forced onto them a little bit. I think it benefits him more to lose.
See, the wheels keep turning. The wheels keep turning. The wheels keep turning. I'm going back to my fantasy booking idea because guess who has up until next June to cash in? Hopefully his knee is okay.
Seth Rollins.
Have Cena, retire as champion, but then again, he's not quite done because someone has the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Could work.
There's so many possibilities. But
I mean, it's just a matter of how they present it.
1, 2, 3 on the Cena turn.
Like
I thought at that moment, right? Rollins would be Rock 1, Cena 2, Rollins the third. Rollins is
or even just Rollins break a Bronson.
Third in the count.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, but like Ben, you're convinced that Cody's going to win. Do you think that they're going to end this run without doing Cena Roman?
Yes,
I don't. I don't. That's a lot of money on the table.
I said it on the show.
To me, that could.
It is, but they should do it. I just don't think they will. I think they want him to retire as a babyface, and I think for whatever reason they want Cody on top now.
He could do that by losing. He doesn't need to work as a babyface. That's my point.
Yeah.
Now, you might be right, but all I can say is Goldberg didn't win, and I called it.
Fair point on that one. But...
Well, that's the thing. It's going to be Saturday night's main event, so hopefully they give him more than 30 seconds. They
better do.
You know what?
John's going to get cut off.
No, he won't because he knows when to go home on time. Anyway.
Is that fan view though of the literally like they hand him the microphone and then the person starts counting down to 10?
Yeah.
The fan view from behind the camera, you're like, oh no, it's over that fast.
It's live TV, kid. Suck it up.
Well, Bill, go home when they say go home.
Right.
Oh gosh, but on that note, guys, we are gonna go home. Thank you so much, Donnie and Jimmy and Clark, for joining me here today. Make sure you guys check out Huge Pop Radio. You can check it out. I mean, Donnie, do you want to plug everywhere you can get it?
Yeah, so I mean, we're available on WrestlingRepublic.com, of course. Our home site is hugepopradio.com. You can also find us on a bunch of other affiliates. But anywhere you download podcasts or listen to music, man, Spotify, Amazon, all those places, it's there. Just search for Huge Pop, and it is there. Right now, we have an interview with The Godfather, which is just absolutely killer, talking about his BFF, The Undertaker, and all of that good stuff. Last week, we had a great one with Nick Nemeth. We've got one coming up. We're going to be chatting. Jimmy and I, we switched our schedule around because of the passing of Hulk Hogan. So we're going to be talking to a guy that knew Hogan for 50 years. We're going to be talking to Bushwhacker Luke. And we also have an interview coming up with Sami Zayn. We've got all kinds of great stuff, man. And I'll put our interviews up against anybody in the business. Come check us out, and I think you're going to like what you find.
Absolutely. They're great interviews and great intros as well. I'm always a fan of the intros you do, Donnie. But that does bring us, guys, to the end of the show. Have a fantastic day.